Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Mem Ches in Baba Basra. As we learned for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and Sumas of Shiur, we're discussing the topic that we started yesterday, the topic that Moshe did not agree with. Taluya b'zavan zvina zvine. The Gemara says that if a man was forced under physical pressure to sell something, but he was paid in full. He was paid, he's got his good price. It's a good sale. Why? And Rashbam explains the svara. First, we said, why should that be? Well, we said, every time when you sell something, you're sort of forced because you don't really want to give it up, but you needed to raise money, so you're forced. Well, that's different, maybe. Why? Because there you were forced internally. You were forced by yourself. You weren't forced by external forces. Maybe if somebody else forced you at gunpoint, maybe that wouldn't be good. So the Gemara says, yeah, but what did we see it from the case of when you offer to bring a carbon? You make an edit, you're going to bring the carbon, and then you change your mind. I don't know, maybe later on. I don't have the money right now. No, we force him. So you see over there, because Yaakov was an extra pasuk telling me that you force him. So what do you see? That when you're forced to do something, it still counts. Of course, you have to agree. You're forced. Okay, I agree, right? I'm forced to sell it. When you want to sell something, you're forced by yourself. But even if they say okay, it said you force him, Bezin force him, Bezin of the basement force him until he agrees. Actually, he has to agree. If he says I don't agree, that's different. But he forced him until he says I agree. He says that's an agreement. So maybe that's different over there too, because there at the end he wants the kapara. He says, yeah, I don't want to do it now. But why did he give the netter originally? Why did he say I'm going to bring it up? Because he wants to get the kapara. So maybe that's different there. But when you're forced to sell something, there's no kapara there. You didn't do it on your own, maybe different. I said, well, what about the case of Yitinashim? If the Bezdin forces him because he was Menuva Mukashchin, he was filthy, he was a leper or something of sort, he was disgusting to live with. She appealed to the Bezdin, and Bezdin forced him to give him a get, because we know even today when you have to do it with her consent, but he has to give her the get. He can't. The Bezdin just can't say you're divorced, or she can't give him a divorce. He has to give her the get. So if he agrees under duress, under physical pressure to give the get, it's a good get. So what do you see? You see over there that if you force somebody to give a get, it's good. So maybe if you force him to sell his house or sell his field, it's also good. So no, maybe there's different, because it's a mitzvah to listen to the Chacham. The Chacham said, the Bezdin said, the rabbi said you have to divorce her. So it's different when you're getting a kapara, or you're forcing yourself internally, or it's a mitzvah to listen to the Chachamim. But how do you know if a man just forces somebody else at gunpoint? Reuben forces Shimon at gunpoint to sell his house. How do you know that that's valid? What's the svara? So the Gemara said on Daf Mem Ches about the seventh line where we finished up yesterday. Elasparu, it's a logical reason. Agavun say Gomer Makne, because he was forced, he agreed to it. And Rashbam explains. Rashbam says a little bit further down, even with the words for Rebbe Gershom, they're right below. El Rafuna Misfar Didekamer. Since he's being forced, since he's being under physical pressure, Yisurim, he's under pain and duress. Gomer Belibo, he agrees. Umakti, Hovi Katarti. There's two advantages here. Yisurim, number one, he's forced. Umatamos, he's being paid. The lo mafsid midi, because he's not losing anything at the end of the day. If he'd be losing something, like we said yesterday, I'm forcing you to sell your house. What's the price? Ask the brokers or get have it appraised. It's worth $2 million. We'll pay you the $2 million. But I don't want to sell now. We're forcing you to, but you agreed, but you got your money. If you didn't get your money, Rabibi said yesterday, even if he was forced at gunpoint and you got your money, to give the money back. It's not a sale. Rav Huna, though, says, no, we're seeing Pascha Huna, if you're forced at gunpoint to sell, but you got your price, it's a good sale, because at the end, you're really not losing anything. You're getting your money. Okay, that's how we came out. Now we're going to ask a kash on that. This is where we left off yesterday. Moshe Rav Yehuda, on the 8th line. Moshe Rav Yehuda, get a Musa B'Yisrael. If the get is given under physical pressure, he's being coerced by the Bezdin to give the get kosher. Uva Akam Pasel, if a guy forces you, what do we mean by that? A woman wants to get divorced from her husband. She doesn't want to live with him anymore. He refuses to give her a get. What does she do? She calls the mafia, John Gotti, and she says, listen, can you bring a few thugs here? Rough up my husband a little bit till he agrees to it. That's no good. But akum pasel, if a guy does it as pasel. Uba akum, but let's say the Bezdin of Yisrael wants to use the guy to force him, and his Bezdin wants to force this guy to give a get. Bezdin's allowed to do that until he says Rotzani. He has to say Rotzani. So they can, the Bezdin can employ the goyim to strike him. But Omerlo, when they say, I say Masha Yisrael Omelcha, do what your Jewish court there says. Listen to the rabbis over there. Your rabbis, listen to the rabbis. You can do that. Why do we say over there that if the goy forces him to do it, it's not a good get? He said, it's possible. It's possible. Therefore, he's not losing anything. Why do you say right? If you want to use a goy to do it, if the best use it, fine, right? But by a goy, it's possible, even though he agrees to it, because after the Makshir Yisrael Kosher, the Makshir Yisrael Kosher, the reason. So why, if a goy forces you, if she calls up the mafia, the goyish mafia? Fortunately, there's a Jewish mafia too. We live in Israel, but if she calls the Italians and she employs them to force her husband, beat him up until he gives a get, that's not a good get, right? But if she employs the Bezdin's good. What's the difference? Probably because mitzvah l'shmo de'ber chachamim. If it's just because he agrees to it, if he would just because he agrees to it under duress, it's still good. Like Pli B'Zav, and you force him to sell, you force him to give the get because he agrees to, because he's not losing anything at the end. Why not? And Rashi was, so why do you say if the goy did it on his own, in other words, she hired the goy, not the Bezdin, then it's not a good get? Why? Vakum puzzle, since there's no, probably because, what's the difference if the goy does it, if she calls a mafia, if she calls a Jewish court? Probably because mitzvah l'shmo de'ber chachamim, like we said in the case before. Why is that? Because you listen to the Bezdin. But if you call the mafia, you're not listening to the Bezdin. That's presumably, so what do you see? Even why should there be a difference? If it's the point is that he's not losing anything, what's the difference? Why don't you say it there also? It says the Gemara, Hasanami, my Hasanami name Agabun say Gomer Makish. Even when the guy does it, say also he's not losing anything. This lady doesn't want to live with him at all, right? She wants out, right? So what does he lose? It's like selling something when he's not losing anything. He's getting his money for it. The Kivin Rashbam says before the lines get wide. The Kivin Sheishtos and also, since she hates him, Uvulo get Namilo Samadet, so she's not going to stay with him anyway. She hates him. She doesn't want to stay there. The get what is he losing over here? Why, if a guy forces him to give the get on his own, like she went and got the guy, no Bezdin. Why do we say that's not a good get? Why not? He's not losing anything. Losing the what? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. If Bezdin forces him to do it, and it's she can't live with him, she can say, I don't want him. It doesn't necessarily. The Gemara in Ksubas talks about that. It depends on the situation. Sometimes it is. Sometimes he's not losing. He'd have to pay the ksuba. He doesn't want to pay the ksuba. Okay, that's a good point. But sometimes he doesn't have to give the ksuba. He doesn't have to give the ksuba because she wants out. If she's the one, like the cause of the issue, she doesn't want to live with him. Maybe he doesn't have to give the ksuba. That's a good point, right? Yeah. So the point then is, I'm just trying to see if Tosfos discusses it. Maybe Tosfos discusses it, but I think it depends over there. It's a good point, but I think it depends. If she's the cause of the divorce, she wants out, he wouldn't necessarily have to give the ksuba. The point is that he's not losing anything. So what's the difference? Just like you say that Pli was up and he forced him to sell him a field or a house, and you force him at gunpoint, as long as he's not losing anything, he's getting paid, it's a good sale. So here too, why don't you say if the guy forces him to? Same thing. My husband, name is since he is forced, he agrees to it because he's not losing anything anyway. She's not going to stay with him anyway. So the answer is Amar Masharsha. Listen to this. Nami kosher. You're right. Minat Torah, it is a good get. It's a good get even if she calls the mafia and asks him, forces him to do it's kosher, because he agrees to it at the end. That whole concept that he agrees to it, at the end he agrees to it, even under duress. So why do we say that it's not good? Minat Torah, it's good. So that any woman who wants to rebel against her husband, she doesn't like her husband, no problem. She'll just call the mafia and force him to do it. In other words, Minat Torah, it would be good. Minat Torah, it would be a good get. If she called the mafia and said, beat him up until he gives me a get, Minat Torah, it could be a good get. But the rabbi said, we're not going to allow that to be a get, because otherwise every woman who wants to get divorced, she'll just go hire the goyim. She'll ingratiate herself with the guy. And Rashi says maybe she'll be mazana with the guy. She'll befriend the guy until he forces her to do it. but Eino Hanami, let's say, we're saying over here that if the mafia forces him out of it, it's Minat Torah, it's a good get, but the rabbis puzzled it, Eino Hanami. She still needs a good get, but let's say she accepted Kedushin from somebody else, meanwhile, right? The rabbi said it's not a good get, right? Midrabban, it's not a good get. But if she accepted Kedushin from somebody else, Minat Torah would be a good Kedushin, therefore she needs a get from both, says Rashbam. So therefore, that's the answer over there. But we're still maintaining our idea that Tluya V'Zav and Svina Svina. And if Bezin forces him to give a get until he says road sunny, that's good. And if a guy would force him to give a get, Minat Torah would be good too. But the rabbi said, don't do that, because otherwise every woman who wants to get divorced, she'll just go hire the mafia without going to a Jewish court. Most of them doing another kasha. We had this yesterday. Let's say you bought a field from the Sikrikan. Sikrikan were the murderers who would take away people's fields and kill them. And they didn't pay necessarily. So you bought it, let's say you bought the field from one of these guys. You bought it on the black market, so to speak. Then you went and asked the original owner, who the field was taken away from, to give you a bill of sale. It's not a good sale because it was forcibly taken away from him. Why do you say that too? He was forced, just because he was forced, even though it was at gunpoint. All right, Marla, the answer there is when do we say that it's not a good sale? If the original owner, who the field was taken away from by the Sikrikan, says, okay, go take it, then it doesn't mean anything. It's null and void. Like, go and make a chazaka, show acquisition and acquire it. But if you gave him a bill of sale, that would be a good kinyan. What he gets, Shmuel says, even if he gives him a bill of sale, subsequent to it being taken away by the Sikrik and by these murderers, it's not a good sale. I'm not going to, Mike, what are you going to say? Why not? Why don't you say Tli of Zavan? The answer is Moda Shmuel, Hechad Yavzuse. Shmuel's motive, he was paid for it. If after he bought it from the Sikrik and he bought it dirt cheap from the Sikrik, and after all, they got it for nothing. Now he went and he paid the original owner, paid him for the whole field, then it would be a good sale. Tli of Zavan's going to say it. Again, we say this sort of forced sale is a good sale, is only if you paid, top dollar, you paid the market value of the house. Rabibi the Masaim, but whatever Rabibi finished off in the name of Rav Nachman. We had these words yesterday also. Rabibi the Masaim, but Mishmei Rachman Karka Elo Mosleishlo. He doesn't get the karka, but the Goslin gets his money back. He doesn't get to keep the karka. That means that the bill's not a good sale. Michael, what are you going to say? See, the sale's not a good sale according to Rabibi. And Rabibi, remember Rabibi just simply made a statement. He made a statement from the Amora. It wasn't like Rashi said, Rashbam says, it's not a brisa or a mishnah. Rashbam near the bottom of the page says, he said it in the name of Nachman, he said it in the name, it was a member, it was a statement, teaching of the rabbis, but it wasn't a mishnah of brisa. And if he have a Omer Rabbi Mishmeit Nafshay, have a Mahana Kamara Gavra, if he would have said himself, yes, and Kasha, Rabbi disagrees with the Rapuna. Our whole thing here is what Rapuna said, Tli V'Zav and Svina Svina, we're going to pass like Rapuna, but Rapuna said Tli V'Zav and Svina, Rabbi doesn't agree with that. Or Rabbi was saying a statement. Remember the Rapuna, let's real. Rapuna doesn't hold of Rabbi's statement in the name of, I think it was in the name of Rav Nachman, Shmei Rav Nachman, correct. Okay, Amar Rava, 2 lines from the bottom of the page in the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Hilchasa Tli V'Zav and Svina Svina. The halacha is, like Rapuna, that if you were forced at gunpoint to sell, it's a good sale. Below Armin, Ella, but now Rav is qualifying Rapuna. Now, he's going to qualify Rapuna with some issues that it'll make you happy, but at the end, we don't hold like these qualifications. We'll see. He says, okay, he says, it's a good sale. Below Armin, Ella, B'Sadastam. What does that mean? You were forced at gunpoint to say, somebody, sell me a field. I need some fields. I need a house. Any house in remote bed. Sell me a house. And you were forced, and you gave up one of your houses or one of your fields. Then it's a good sale. You know why? Because he didn't want a particular house, or let's call it a field. He didn't want a particular. He said, sell me a field. Sell me one of your fields. So you picked one of the fields. You probably put the worst one, the one that you don't mind parting with. Then it's a good sale. If the enforcers, the violent people said, I want this field, then it's not a good sale, right? Then even if he says road signing, it's not a good sale. That's the first qualification. Even when we say besadazu, it's not a good sale. That's only if you didn't count the money. And he says, you want this field? He says, okay, here's your money. And he didn't even count it out. But if he counted out the money, then he agreed to it. Like he wanted to make sure how much money he was getting, then it is a good sale. But and this is what we say, that it's not a good sale if he said Sadazu, and if he said Sadazu, and if he didn't count right, if he didn't count the money, even Sadazu, and he didn't count out the money, indicating that he didn't really want to agree to the sale. He wanted this, they wanted this field, and he didn't count out the money. We say that it's not a good sale. That's only Elom He didn't have an excuse. He couldn't have evaded it by saying, you know what, let me check with my wife. I'm going to call my wife, or my lawyer's in town. It's a Sunday. I got to go there on Monday. He was looking for some excuse. Wait till tomorrow. Or wait till my wife comes. He could have evaded him, and he didn't. That's the point. Even when we say that if they asked for this field and he didn't count out the money, it's not a good sale. That's only if he didn't try to use some evasion. If he didn't even try to evade it, he says, okay, he's okay, he took it. He didn't try to evade it. He could have evaded, and he didn't evade it. Then what we don't say these excuses at all. But the halacha is not like that. The halacha of the Gemara Paskins Bakulu, it's all a good sale. Even if the bad guys want this field, right? It's a good sale because he's getting his money. Again, they're paying the money. They're paying the value. And like Rashbam emphasized 3-4 times on Amar Aleph, he's not losing anything. He's getting his money. He's not losing anything. Why? And listen to this. Isha, because in the case of a wife, if you're being forced to divorce your wife, it's also kasara sudami. It's like this field. After all, they want this wife, right? Not somebody else. But now we're not talking about divorce. Now we're talking about when he forced her to marry her. Whoa. We all understand that Midaraisa, you can force your wife to get divorced, right? The rabbi said, don't do it, right? What about when you want her to marry you? She has to agree, right? Will you marry me? She has to agree. Gemara says, no. Daisha, listen carefully. Daisha kasarazutami. A woman is also like, I want this field, right? The rabbi, they say, I want this field. Not any field, and you give me the worst one. Okay, I agree there. But if I want this field, no. If I want the wife, the man wants to marry this woman. He doesn't say, give me any of your daughters, or give me any woman over here. He wants this wife. They should consider Zudami. But Omar Mar, he has the Girsa, our Gemara says Omar Meimer, he says Omar Mar, and Rashbam says, Hachi. This is what the Gemara is saying. Omar Mar says, if he forced her, listen carefully, if he forced her to marry him, he gave her money, right? He gave her the ring or the money. Today we marry with the ring or money, equivalent of money. It's a good marriage. If he forced her, again, she said, Rotsani, right? She agreed, right? Rotsani, she agreed. In all these cases, it's only you force them and they agree. You forced her in money. Meaning he says, would you take this ring? No. How about $1 million? Yep, I'm there. She agreed at the end. Whatever it was, she agreed. He forced her, but she had to agree. She said, I don't agree. It's not a marriage. She agreed. It's a good kedushin. Okay. So that's what the Gemara says. And therefore, like Sadazu is like this woman. If you force a woman to marry you, says, here's $1 million. Will you marry me? And she says, yeah, it's a good marriage. As long as she agrees. Ma'abar Abashi says, listen carefully. Mena Torah, that's true. Abashi says, by a woman, it's not a kedushin. Even if he forced her and she agrees, it's not a kedushin. Why? Who asa shlokah? And he acted improperly, forcing her. He didn't try to, ingratiate himself with her and talk to her and be nice to her. Try to encourage her to marry him, to try to influence her. He acted improperly. He forced her. Meaning forced her even at gunpoint. Will you marry me? Here's the kedushin, and she agreed. He acted improperly. Therefore, the rabbi said it's not a good marriage. The rabbi said it's not a good marriage, right? Why? Rabbana nullified his kedushin. Again, why does that work? Because we say Kedas Moshe Yisrael, meaning when I marry you with the agreement of the rabbis. We're doing it the way the rabbis. That means if the rabbis don't agree, it's not a good marriage, right? That's how marriages are. In the few cases, the marriages are annulled. Why? Because he said Kedas Moshe Yisrael. If you acted improperly, we're going to nullify it. Okay, but really what we're saying is Minatorah, it's a good kedushin. Says Rashbam, in the narrow lines before the lines get wide, Dafagaf Minatorah lav kedushin, even though Minatorah is a good kedushin. Why? Because Tuliv Zavan Zvinas Vina. If I force you at gunpoint to sell me something and you agree, even if there's no kapara, there's no rabbis listening, there's no advantage, if you agree and you're not losing anything, fine. It's a good marriage. It says it's a good kinyan. The same thing here. She's not losing anything. She's getting married. He's giving her money, giving her a ring, whatever. It's good marriage. Minatorah. Afagav Minatorah of kedushin. Rabbanan ikrinu. The Rabbanan uprooted the kedushin. They nullified it. They abrogated it. Vafkiro son, and they were mafkir. Now it's the money that he gave her. That's a gift. They said it's not a kedushin. The rabbis uprooted it. So interesting. The tluya b'zavans vinas vina is still. It's the halachas. They're still there. Force you at gunpoint. If you agreed, you got your money. Fine. The same thing with a woman. If I force her at gunpoint and she agrees to it, midaraisa would be a good kedushin. Midaraisa would be a good kedushin, but the rabbi said, hey, no. You could only marry, you have to say Kedas Moshe Yisrael, and this is Akim Moshe Yisrael. Amal Rabbeinu Rav Ashi, the same Gemara is in many places. This whole idea that the Rabbanan nullified the kedushin tenach the Kaddish B'gas, that's fine if he married her with money. Money means a ring or the equivalent of money, because the rabbis could say, no, it's a gift. That's fine if you get a shkaspa. Kish b'bia Michael Maimer. What about if you're makadosh b'bia? How do you makadosh an isha? Gemara says isha niknas b'kesef shtar b'bia. Right? Either with a shtar or kesef like we do, or b'bia. Now we don't do bia today because it's considered not nice, but some say that's the preferable way to do it, minator. But if you makadosh with bia, so how do the rabbanan or mafker? There's no money to be mafker. You can't say hefker bez and hefker. Amalei shavar rabbanan basper. So the rabbi said it's a snus. It's bia. It's not bia. It's a bia without any purpose, without any marriage involved. In other words, rabbanan could do that. So interesting. We're saying that technically minatorah, if you forced a woman to marry you and she agreed and she took the money and that, it's a good marriage. But the rabbi said it's not. Tavi was a violent man. Talala Papi, he hung Papi up a kinra on a tree, kind of a tree, forced him to sell a field. Some say that Rashbam brings another shot that he hung him on the kinra. In other words, he wanted to buy the kinra tree from him. But anyway, he forced him, so to speak, at gunpoint to sell him something. Now listen, Rabbi Chana was there. He became one of the Eidim, and he signed on two documents. One is a modah. Modah we had before is a notification of duress, that he's doing it under duress, right? In other words, Tavi forced Papi to sell him this field under duress. Now, Rabbi Chana signed on the modah, on a notice. He said, I'm notifying that I don't want to do it. In other words, it's one thing to just say, wrote something, okay, I agree to it, and that's it. You got paid. But here he notifies, says, I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. Ashkalta is the regular bill of sale, the deed of sale. So Rabbi Chana signed on both on the notification in advance that I'm doing this under duress, I don't want to do it. And he signed on the bill of sale. Amar Afuna, man the chasam amodah shaper chasam. The one who signed on, if he signed on this notification, that's a proper notification. And if he signed on the sale, and the bill of sale, it's also proper. Now, the two things are contradictory, right? On the one hand, he signed a deed, a notice of nullification, notice that I don't want to do this. On the other hand, he signed on the bill of sale. Why would Rabbi Chana sign on both? As if to say that, they're contradictory. He signed on both. It wasn't like a notification, Balpez, we'll see. He signed on both. It's the Gemara says, Manavshach. If the notification is valid, then the bill of sale is invalid. You should have signed on that. And if he signed on the bill of sale, then the modah is not a good sale. So what do we mean? Rabbi Hafuna said if he signed on this, it's good, and he signed on that, it's good. This is what Hafuna meant to say. Ilav modah, if it wouldn't be for the notification, if it wouldn't be for the notification, the signing on the bill of sale would be a good signing, but because he signed on the notification, it was improper to sign on the bill of sale. Now, why? Rafuna goes according to his reasoning. The Amar Rafuna we've been discussing the whole day. In other words, if it wouldn't be for that he signed on the notification of duress, if he wouldn't be on that, it would be okay to sign on the bill of sale, even though the guy didn't really want to sell, but he agreed to it under duress, and Rav Huna holds that plea was Venus. So the Gemara says, is that really so? That over here, if he signed on this bill of sale, on the notification of duress, is it really so that you can't do it? So he says, Aini. The Gemara says, Rashbam says, I'm looking for the Rashbam. Yeah. Aini, Klomer, Heich Bot Lamadah Shechasim Barafona. Rabbi Barafuna signed on both. How is the signing of on the notification of duress? How did that nullify the bill of sale that he did afterwards? In other words, this is not where he said road signing, right? He didn't want to sell. And they forced him to sell. And he was clearly under duress. And Rabbi Hana signed on a deed that said he signed on the notification saying that this is under duress. And then he signed on the bill of sale following that. So Rav Huna said, if you had signed on the bill on the notification of duress, then there's no need you shouldn't have signed on the bill of sale. And if you signed on the bill of sale, okay, even if it was under duress, it's still a good sale because he agreed to it. Because at the end he agreed to it, there was no sense. So he said Rav Huna goes according to his reasoning that okay, it's okay. Right? Not like Rav said before, Locust. So you see over here, if he signed on a bill of duress, even for Yivzavan, it's okay. So Ram says, right? If he didn't sign on the bill on the notification, it would have been a good sale. According to his reasoning. So the Gemara now says, is it really true that that the notification really that nullifies the bill of sale afterwards, right? I thought a notification does not really nullify it. Why is that, Aini? Is it really true that if he signed on a notification, that would nullify the bill of sale? Rav Nachman, on the last line of the page, Rav Nachman, Amana frame. Aiden will say, listen, Amana means a deed of trust. What does that mean? A Logan wants to borrow money from the Malva, right? But when he wants to borrow the money, the guy doesn't have money now, or he might need to borrow the money, and then you have to get a sofer to write the IOU. It's complicated. So he says, you know what? Let's get the IOU done right now. Right now. There was no money transferred yet. But let the IOU say, I borrowed $1,000 from you, and the Adam will sign on it. That's not a good thing to do, right? Because he's trusting the Malva that he'll only enforce the document if the sale goes through. Now, the Adam also have a problem with that because you're signing on something which didn't take place. You're signing it as if it took place and it didn't take place. That's called the bill of trust. So if Adam say, listen, yes, there's an IOU here, and we signed on it, but the money didn't really take place. We just did it on trust. That's like ain't a money. They're not believed. And Rashbam says there's two reasons. Number one, keep it shaker shuba and chazar magid. If their own signatures are verified by other documents, then for sure, you're saying your document, the document you signed on, is not a good document because it was just a deed of trust. The thing didn't take place. Well, we know your deed says otherwise. You signed on this, and we can verify your signatures. And even if they're the ones who are verifying their own signatures, but their document says that you wrote here that this loan took place, and now you're saying it didn't take place. So once you testify, once you testify one way, you can't change your testimony. Another reason is that this whole IOU, which was written before the loan took place, is a lie. And you shouldn't keep a lie in your place. And therefore, you're saying that you're a Russia by saying you signed on something that didn't take place. It's like saying, I signify that this guy sold the field, but he didn't sell the field. I hereby testify that this loan took place, and it didn't take place. So they're not believed. That's the Bayishtar Amona, trust. Let's say we signed on a bill of sale. We signed on the bill of sale, but we know that he was forced to do it. We know he's forced to do it. Also, they're not believed. Right, because once they testify one way, they can't change their mind. Even though we say we know he was coerced, but you didn't sign on that. You didn't say that. Ain't a money. So the Gemara says. So how can you say over here that Rav Huna said? If they signed on the modah, if they signed on the notification of duress, then that invalidates the sale, right? He says, yeah. If it wouldn't be for the modah, then if you would have signed on Ashkal, it would have been good. Why? Because but since he signed on the modah, then the bill of sale is invalid because he said we're doing this under duress. It wasn't like Tli Vazav and he paid and he agreed. He said, I know this is under duress. So you see that they're not believed. So why did Rav Huna say, oh, since if he signed on the notification of duress, the bill of sale is invalid? Why? When you say you signed on a bill of duress, or you say that you signed on an IOU that never took place, you're not believed. The Gemara says at the end of the first line on Memtes, Hanimili Alpeh, that's only when they said after the fact. They have a document here which says the bill of sale took place. Now the Adam come and say, well, we did sign on that, but you know what? He was under duress before. Now you're changing your mind. Hanimili Alpeh, the Loasi Alpeh, Umar Leishtar, because you can't have words that are saying now and disqualify the shtar that you signed on properly. But if, let's say, the notification of duress they signed on before the bill of sale, right? They signed, Rabbi Baruch Hana signed on the notification of duress, and then he signed on the bill of sale. So that took place before. That's different. If he signed on a document or notification of duress before, that can invalidate the subsequent bill of sale. Gufa. Now, that's what we say the difference if you signed on or didn't sign up. But Gufa, the basic idea. Can you sign on a bill of duress or not? If they say that the loan didn't take place, we just signed on it in advance, they're not believed. Because that's a lie. It's number one, you can't change your mind. And number two, it's a lie. Right? We said it's a lie because the whole document is a falsehood. A loan that didn't take place and said this loan took place and we're signing on it, and the loan never took place. That's a lie. You can't do that. So they're not believed. But Rav Nachman said, if they say we just signed on a bill of trust, on an IOU of trust, they're not believed. And if they say it was under duress, we know that he did the deal under duress, they're not believed because they're changing their testimony. Ma'abravashi says if it was he agrees that if we sign on a IOU of trust that never took place, they're not believed because they're liars. They're calling themselves liars, and they can't change their testimony. But if they say that it was under duress, they are believed. Even Balpeh, my timer, because in the case of an IOU that never took place, they're just signing it on trust that hopefully the trust the Malva used. That should never have been written at all. But in other words, the IOU should never have been written. But in the case of a modah under duress, it could be written down. We're just testifying it was under duress. We were trying to save his life. He was being coerced, and they had a gun to his head. And he told them, "I'm signing this on. I don't really want to sell. I don't agree. If you agree to leave his oven, and he agreed to it, and he took the money, yes, okay. But if he says I don't want to do this, and they're forcing him to do it, then it's okay for them to sign on the bill of sale." Because they know because they're going to subsequently testify that it was under duress. So they know it was under duress, and they signed on it because we were trying to save his life. That's different. So here he's saying, even if it wasn't written down, the answer to Rav Nachman, even Rav Nachman would agree that if they signed on a bill of duress, on a notification of duress before the bill of sale, maybe even Rav Nachman would agree. But if they just say after the fact, well, it was under duress, according to Rav Nachman, they're not believed. According to Rav Ashi, they are believed because it could be written down. They're trying to save his life. But he doesn't agree. They're forcing him. He's at gunpoint. They're forcing him to sell the field. He doesn't agree. Flee was oven if he agrees and he took the money. If he doesn't agree, they say you better do this or we're going to kill you. So the bill of sale takes place, and they signed on it legitimately just to save his life. But they didn't really want the deal to take place. In a case like that, according to Rav Ashi, a money brainer and money, but Madari brainer would be believed. All right, tomorrow's daf is daf mem test. We're at the 2 dots here. Tomorrow, of course, is Tisha B'Av, so we won't learn inside. However, it will be on the podcast shortly, and it's a very short daf. And on Wednesday, after Tisha B'Av, on tomorrow's daf will take you till the middle of daf Nun Amud Aleph, the ending of the word Svina Zvine, and the last word in the middle of the page. Be boys. The last word on the line is boys ema. We'll pick it up from there, Mitzvah Shem, on Wednesday. Som Kal, and may this be. Maybe we won't have a Tisha B'Av. If Mashiach comes today in the Beis Hamikdash, we will learn here tomorrow at the regular time. If he doesn't,
that would be nice.
Right,
Have a good
right.
phone
If he
call,
doesn't
everybody.
come,
Regards to everybody.
Right, amen. But if he doesn't come, then hopefully this will be the last Tisha B'Av. Have a good day, everybody.
Amen. Amen.